Hey there, and welcome to the January edition of Cooking and Baking with LadyJamers. Now, as I've said, I am basically cooking for myself right now. And I have noticed I got this little 1-quart Dutch oven at Home Goods this past fall. And everybody said, "Why did you get this? What a waste of money." And I got it part because I thought it was so cute. And then I thought, why don't I try to make recipes with it? And one of the recipes I like to make with it most is lentil soup. And I call this recipe lentil soup for two. In fact, I have to tell you that my friend Lisa, who also lives by herself, asked me about this a couple of weeks ago. She goes, where can I get mine? And to tell you the honest truth, I think she was one of the ones that said it was a stupid purchase. Not anymore. So, anyway, what you do is you get a half a cup of lentils. Right here, you can I never could do that right. So, anyway, here are the lentils. And you can do it with or without meat. I like ham the best. So, before we get too far from where we're going, let's get you that picture of all the ingredients. Now, in case you're wondering about this kind of thing, once again, my phone is acting up. So I'm doing this on my iPad. So basically, like I said, I'm going to put all the ingredients at the end like I always do. And I'm right in front of the stove, so it makes it easier to move. So, you need olive oil, but basically you only need olive oil or butter for the bottom of the pan. And last time I made this, I realized you can have too much olive oil. So basically, you want to have maybe a half a teaspoon, or you want to have just a little covering on the end. Now, the best way to make things in a 1-quart Dutch oven is honestly to eyeball it. But like I said, I'll have the ingredients in the back anyway. So, take that and just kind of swoosh it around so it's covering the bottom. And then you put in your lentils. Now, the lentils are supposed to be covering the bottom. The one thing I will tell you is with this recipe, you do have to keep an eye on it, because when you have like a 3-quart Dutch oven, you can use like a cup of the lentils, and you don't really have to worry about the water either overflowing or diminishing enough. You do have to worry about that with a 1-quart. So this recipe takes basically about 2 hours. And you can also do this in your crock pot if you want. But for one person, that is way too much. And I'm not one of those people that like to put it in the freezer for later, because it just doesn't, it's not me, for lack of a better phrase. Now, I like to put carrots, which are bigger peas, potatoes. Now I get the baby potatoes because I've noticed that when you're doing a meal and you have like a bag, the 3-pound, 5-pound bag of potatoes, those go bad by the time I get to halfway through the bag. And so you get the baby potatoes, and it costs a little bit more, but you're wasting a lot less. And then I also like to have some mushrooms. I love mushrooms. The other things you can add to this are like red pepper and corn. This recipe is, like all the recipes I make, very forgiving, very treatable. So basically, like I said, I measured them all out. I put 5 little potatoes, 5 little baby carrots, and 5 of the mushrooms, and I cut them up. And also, you do not have to cut them up. Last time I didn't cut up my veggies, and they got all nice and soft, and I could cut them as I'm like spooning it. And for the ham, or whatever, you can use sausage, chicken, ground beef, steak, no meat at all. And I'd say I took, those little ham slices you can get at the store. I got some and I cut it in half. And basically that is what I have for this. So I'd say for this, for 1 quart, a half a cup. For a 3 quart, you could do the whole ham slice cut up. Now, you can use water, you can use broth, or you can use water and broth. My grocery store didn't have the beef broth in the cans, and then I realized for a lot of my recipes, I used to use a whole can plus for Mom and I, and for just myself, sometimes a whole can is too much liquid. So I noticed if you get these, you can pour a little bit out and then put the rest in the refrigerator. So once again, you're saving more money and not wasting a lot of product. So what you do with this one is you pour it in until it gets to about, I'd say 3/4. And I also have, that is basically about 1 cup of beef broth. You can use, most of them ask for chicken broth, and I noticed that the difference when you're doing something that's not beef or chicken, the chicken broth makes it a little bit more mild, and the beef broth gives it a little bit of punch. So both are good. Get which one, if you're like me and you have the one open and the other one not open, get the one that's open. Now in here, I put all the ingredients, like the minced onion. You could also use fresh onion. Oregano. I always like oregano and stuff. The soy and the Worcestershire, which give my food that little umami taste, I think it's called. Salt and pepper to taste. A little bit of thyme. I like thyme, especially with mushrooms. And then some red wine vinegar. You could also use any other kind of vinegar. The apple would give it a different taste, like depending on which. I like the red wine because it gives kind of a more full, a better mouthfeel. That's the word. Now, when you're done, if you want, you can put Parmesan cheese on top, or any kind of cheese of your choice. So let me put this in here, and I've got a spoon. Now, this is another thing you can eyeball, since you're only using a quart, is that you can just pour it right in to the pot. Now, I am going to stop this and let you see how it looks, because like I said, the other phone's not working, and if I take the iPod and turn it over, it makes a really kind of like you're going for a ride. Now, right there, it does need a little bit more juice, and that is why I said that you have to really watch it when you're doing the 1 quart, whereas with the 3 quart, you don't really have to watch it. But this saves, a lot of time, food, you name it. If you're like me and you don't like to have leftovers more than 2 days. Now here I put it on the stove. I put it on for about 2.5, 3 on here, and you just let it cook. I stored it, and we'll check it in about an hour or so, and I'll show you the continuing project. Now, you can put it on a little bit higher, but I've noticed in the past, if you put it over the 3 mark on your stove, it really does boil over more than normal. And with my particular stove, if you put it on low, it just sits there and warms, which we want it to bake, not just warm. So, this is the beginning part, and I put more liquid in there. See, that's how you want the liquid to look like. Kind of still give some room from the top, but look like soup more than stew. And just another little tidbit, I did put the lid on. You want to keep the lid on because that keeps all the heat and the cooking within and makes it taste real good, and that's why you use your little Dutch oven and all. Okay, so this is when you know you need to put in some more broth, water, whatever. You put it in, and then you stir it, and it actually has been 2 hours because I left it at the 2.5 mark, so, and it hasn't boiled over, thank goodness. So let me get a spoon. Here you go. And I already stirred it a little bit already. You can see how hearty it is. It's really good, especially on a cold day, but it doesn't have to be cold to like this soup. So I'm going to wait for about another, say, hour or so, and then give it a try. So you can see that in total, this took about 3 hours, but it's really worth it. And like I said, it's really nice on a hot day and a cold day, especially a cold day, by the way. And let me put some of this in here. And we can give it a try. And we'll walk it over. And just to tell you, the phone is perfect for, shooting other things. It's the selfie mode I'm having trouble with. So I'm going to go to the iPad, which most of this has been on. Okay, so here we have the finished product. I put some of cheese on the top, and the way I like to have soup the best was dipping with the bread. So, like I said, I know this is good. I've made it many times. By letting it kind of simmer for a couple of hours, it really lets the lentils cook, and by having like hearty vegetables like potatoes and carrots, that cooks along with lentils. This is a meal you have to try. So it may not be the prettiest soup, but it's one of the best soups around to taste. Try some lentil soup for two or for a family. It's LadyJamers saying thank you for watching, and we will see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.